Welcome to the Beach Bucket Podcast, and today we are at location at the Humane Society of Ocean City with Phil Bellucci and Deanna Dolan. Welcome, Phil. Dave.
Thank you, Gretchen. We're happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk dogs and cats. How are you guys?
We're great. We're great.
Good.
We're always ready to talk dogs and cats. That's what we do.
Now, your mission here is providing the highest level of compassion and service to animal friends on the island.
Yep.
Now,
correct.
how long have you been doing that?
Well, the Humane Society of Ocean City has actually existed since 1964. Obviously before my time with that, but it's my understanding it actually got started. I think there was actually some high school kids that were helping with the loose dogs in the area, and they were housing them in somebody's garage for a time. And I think that bit of service kind of blossomed through the years, and here we are. I think we're getting ready to gear towards our 60-year anniversary coming up soon. So a lot has happened. Since then, I think the shelter building is actually was built in the mid-'80s, the actual physical shelter building. And then what we're known for really is the barn.
The Big Red Barn?
The Big Red Barn. The only, I don't know, you can maybe fact check me on this, but I think we're the only barn in Ocean City. And the barn was built in 2004. That was our veterinary center, the Woody Johnson Vet Center over there. And that's it. And since then, here we are today.
You're doing a lot of good work over here.
Well, like we touched on before, I mean, we're not just an animal shelter. That's probably the biggest thing that we're known for. But we have a full service veterinarian center next door, which is the barn. And then Deanna and I are both animal control officers. So a lot of people don't really realize is we do animal control for the city of Ocean City as well out here. So we respond to anything from a loose dog on the street that we'll pick up and bring back and try to find the owners for, to going out in the middle of the night and getting a bat out of somebody's house. So never a dull moment for sure. I think there's a show coming on. I think they ripped us off. I think it's getting ready to come on television called Animal Control.
Really?
Yeah. So we might want to look into that and see if we have any maybe copyrights or anything to
Right,
that.
exactly.
Maybe.
Well, let's start off with adoptions. What is the process of adopting a dog?
So what we like for you to do is to come in and meet everybody we have and let us know kind of what you're looking for. We do have an application process just for some basic information, along with checking some veterinary records and making sure everybody in the home gets along with the dog and with the other animals in your home as well.
What is your process kind of matching the right home and the right owner with the right dog or cat?
So we base it off of everybody, being able to get along, getting along with your work schedule, your at-home schedule. For a very active dog, we recommend a very active home. For some dogs that don't like being alone or have stressful situations and pasts, we prefer, maybe someone that works from home, somebody that's kid-friendly if you have children in the home, definitely, and looking for a dog that doesn't get along with other dogs can be difficult in homing at some times, but there's always somewhere out there looking for them.
How many dogs do you currently have available for adoption?
I believe it's 9.
How long has the longest dog been here?
Gunner's probably been here pushing 3 years now.
Wow.
I mean, it's all based on a quality of life, the anxiety level of the dogs. He's a dog that unfortunately had a bite incident. It doesn't necessarily make him a bad dog. It's just on our end of it, it's going to be a tough placement for him with that. Anytime there is an issue where somebody seeks medical attention, then it's the Department of Health involved. So once again, he's a happy dog. We actually have, and we keep saying we're going to do like a big campaign or something. We have George, who's worked in our shelter for 14 years now. And he's been trying to find a house. So hopefully someday when he actually does it, we're going to have probably the biggest adoption that we'd ever have with Gunner leaving the shelter.
Oh, that's great.
But for now, he's here and he's a happy dog. He's just a big Pyrenees. And like I said, he had a bite incident that's tougher for us. Some dogs we get and they're spoken for, shortly after they come in here. So it's just as Deanna was saying, like when a person is looking for a dog, it's the situation that they have as well. And a lot of times we put so much on the actual dog that some of it a little bit is maybe should be on the owner. Like, is the owner experienced enough or knowledgeable enough for certain issues with dogs? Example would be Duke. Duke we have as a hound dog. Great dog, but he has some resource guarding issues that on the outside, if you're not experienced with it, could be a little scary. And it's hard to figure out because it's not necessarily anything like particular. There could be like a toy or something that he might be able to see and he gets it. And to him,
it's his toy.
Yeah. And so it's a little scary because he'll be growly about it and you need to be able to escalate that and maybe divert him to something else that might make it a little bit easier for him. Mm-hmm. But once again, for him, a household with young kids, we're not being judgmental with that. It's just they probably don't have the understanding to realize that he's telling you, I want you to leave me alone with this. And so once again, we don't ever want there to be an incident. We really, really want to try to find once the dog leaves here that they don't wind up coming back.
Now, when people come in to adopt, do they get that? Or are they looking at, hey, this dog looks like the dog I want?
It's tough. And once again, Deanna has a tough job because, unfortunately, some people get maybe upset or something if they don't get a particular dog. Or, we had one of the dogs that came in and it was kind of what we talked about before we started today. It was that perfect little dog that everybody wants. And if we only have one dog like that and 10 people apply, that there's going to be 9 people that unfortunately aren't going to get the dog. So, it's tough because once again, she has to make that call to somebody else who says, hey, we already had somebody, and we still try to but we still have several other dogs, or we continue to get other dogs into the shelter. Like we talked about, we go around to other shelters when we have kennel space, and we try to pull that. And so if Deanna knows that somebody's looking for a dog similar to what we adopted in size and everything, then when she goes to that shelter, she can have that in mind with it. But that's not to say, once again, that dog is going to have anywhere near the personality so once again, you just have to try to match it as best you can. If they have another dog, you obviously want to make sure that the other dog gets to know that other dog first.
Sure. So Deanna, you go to some other shelters and pull dogs from there and bring them here. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. Most of the time I'm looking specifically for certain things from approved applications that I've received before. When I receive applications, I like people to give me a very good description of what exactly they're looking for, what kind of temperament, the size, the weight, and maybe if they're looking for specific breeds. So having those applications at hand work very well for me.
Now, buying a dog from a pet store or from a breeder can be enormously expensive.
Yes.
What are the fees to buy from a shelter?
So here, if you are adopting 7 months or under for a dog, it is $325. If you're doing 7 months and older, up until 7 years, that is $225, and 7 years and up is $125. Our cats are $65 each. This includes their spay, neuter. They go home with all of their vaccines up to date, unless they go under a foster to adopt, which is mostly just puppies. We also send home with the food and everything that they're on as well.
And I saw on your website that they get 10% off veterinary care at your veterinary center.
Yes, they do. And we also do welcome in the other animals that you have in the home already.
That's fantastic. And that's so much more affordable because you can pay upwards of $1,000 to $3,000 for a purebred dog.
Well, like we try to figure out some reasons why the animal might wind up in the shelter to start with. So one of the big reasons, unfortunately, is to some people, it can get really, really costly. Anybody who has an animal knows that, one major trip to the vet can be really, really expensive. So we do that to try to ease some of the burden of the cost when adopting. And then a lot of times after somebody adopts from us, we want there to be an open line of communication should they ever have any issues or problems where we can kind of help them with that. A dog might be having problems house training or something. And, we want them to reach back to us to see if maybe we can help them with that at some point too.
So we just stopped the podcast. You want to explain what just happened?
We just had somebody stop in that was dropping off some dog beds and some food and probably some toys from, it sounded like a dog that they had that just recently passed away. So, and then they're going to want to go through and see the dogs that we have in the shelter as well.
Does that happen frequently?
It does happen frequently. And once it kind of really hits you because we've all been through that, losing the animal. And right off the bat, what they want to do is kind of keep their animal memory alive by giving the things to our dogs here in the shelter. So the food, the bed, some of the toys, things like that. Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes through the process a little bit by stopping in and.
Yeah, I'm happy we paused and just having that quick connection with that gentleman.
Well, like Indiana will vouch for, like, we're kind of sad. I mean, it's sappy because when it really hits you, like, when somebody comes through, we had somebody that just did the same thing yesterday, and you could kind of tell that they're going through that. And it's kind of like, hey, we've all been there and we've all kind of had to deal with that. And there's really nothing that you could tell anybody that makes it any easier. And you could go with cliche like, oh, geez, it'll get better in time and things like that. But it is tough. I mean, for me personally, grieving wise was probably like worse grief than human grief that I've had to deal with. So
while I was grieving, I wanted to be here, not only to help myself, but to help all the other animals here that deserve the attention that they've always needed.
Yeah.
Well, and I was looking through the window at him, and I could tell by the look on his face something was wrong.
Well, once again, it's the same as those people that I saw. Like, they didn't say that to me, but I could. And once again, and then as I asked them that, they were like, "Oh yeah, we just lost so and so," and it's it really hits you really hard. And kind of what we said before, it's some people might not get that. Mm-hmm. Oh geez, it was just a dog. It was just it was just a pet.
Well, and there's something to be said for his dog just passed, and he wants to turn around and drop off this dog food. He doesn't want to throw it away.
Right.
He doesn't want to throw away the dog beds.
Right.
He wants to bring them where they're needed.
Right. And he wants to walk through the shelter. I've seen people like both sides of it. Like, as soon as the animal passed away, they felt, I have the love and I have the ability to take care of another animal, so I want to bring somebody in right away. And then I've had other people that were like, there's no dog that can compare. There's no cat that compare to so-and-so. Mm-hmm. So I'm just not even going to do it anymore. And it's tough. And you know what? Some people don't want to go through that again. I mean, in a perfect world, each and every time, we're going to outlive them. So it's some people, I do not want to feel that way again. But I think we can all agree that the joy that they bring and the happiness far outweighs that. Anybody who's come home after a long day's work and boom, their animal has been there, is going to say, I'll do it every time for that again,
Oh, absolutely.
But you were talking about a little bit. I mean, it's tough because sometimes you just have to go through so many emotional things, financial things, but that's the testament of them, is that you do that each and every time for them.
You don't think twice about it.
Mm-mm. Now, we try to be like our events, things like that. We always try to be like really upbeat. We don't try to like obviously we do two major things here at the shelter. Is one, we house animals and we take care of them medically in hopes to find them forever homes. And B, we raise money so we're able to exist here and do what we do. But we don't like to want people to give because they feel sorry. I always go to and I hope nobody's offended by this, but like the Sarah McLachlan commercial where I'm one of the people that even if it's 2:00 in the morning and I'm half asleep on the couch, I get up and I change it right away. I don't want so we try to be like a lot more uplifting and upbeat when it comes to our giving. An event, we want people to go to our event because they feel like they're having a good time, they're supporting us, and the money's going to help the animals too. So like I said, I don't want to go.
I have to say, I agree. It's too much.
And well, like we were kind of, I didn't want to get too much of a downer. I want us to seem like we're really happy and upbeat. But having said that, I mean, Deanna will agree that it's been a tough summer on us as far as, now you remember when COVID and everybody was, oh, look, the shelters are all empty. The last dog left the shelter. Isn't this great? And that was great at the time, but we were always a little bit leery that it's maybe going to turn the other way someday. And this past summer, we've really, really seen it. As far as Ocean City, not that we're above anybody else, but you don't really see it as much. And we had 3 dump dogs over the summer where somebody just felt the need just to open the leash, take the leash off, and let them fend for themselves. You know, we don't judge anybody, but, you know, it's sad. And we're a smaller shelter, so the more dogs that we have to keep for a longer time, the harder it is for us to go around and help some of the other shelters as well. So it's just been really tough. And the economy, the situation, I mean, we're once again non-judgment here, a judgment-free zone. However, if you're going to do something like that, at least do it in a way that's going to help the animal. Opening your car door and dumping the animal on the side of the road is never the right answer for anything. You know, there's other means. I mean, sadly though, I think in the eyes of the law, an animal is viewed as basically a piece of personal property. So like if you had problems financially and you had 2 children, there's governmental things in place that would actually help you with some kind of assistance. If you have an animal, yeah, it's just a piece of furniture. You know what? You don't have to have that. So it's hard to balance everything when it comes to that. And that's why you can't judge anybody based on what you don't really know. All we really know is when we have that situation, this is the situation that we have to deal with now. Whatever happened in the past isn't going to do any good to dwell on that or try to condemn somebody for that. We have an animal and we're going to have to house it. And we have a great group. I think we have over 75 volunteers now at different capacities that come in. We have 3 shifts of dog people each day that come in, and they provide the walks. They take them out back and play. They provide the enrichment. We have a vet center that takes care of them medically. So super passionate people that work here, volunteer here, and everybody's mindset is, while they're here, we're the dog's family until we get them into another family. So, you know, and it's great. It's funny how a small group of people have all assembled together at one place, but everybody really seems to have that same passion here. So I don't know if we turn each other into that or we just kind of wound up all here together. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk now about switch from adoptions to rescues. You said you had 3 dumped dogs, and when was that?
It was just this past summer.
Wow. And is that
that's
novel for
it's
Ocean
not.
City?
It's not. We don't usually get that. And on top of that, we had several surrenders where it was just somebody who, for whatever reason, just didn't have the means or the ability to take care of that dog or cat anymore. So
now, why are people surrendering dogs? What are typically the reasons they give? Do they give a reason?
Most of the reasons tend to be not having enough time, not having the money, their work schedule's changing, or even adopting a new puppy or kitten that doesn't get along with the older animal that they have, which is very sad. But like Phil said, this is a judgment-free zone, and I'm going to do what I have to do to give that dog or new cat a new family that loves and deserves them.
Yeah, I have to imagine that it would be easy to fall into a place where you're thinking, what's wrong with these people? Why don't you figure that out before you get the pet? But really, you've got to focus your energy on, hey, I'm going to care for this dog or cat that's in front of me and put them in a better situation and find them a home. You know, how do you encourage that kind of workspace here?
Well, we work with a lot of other networking. Like there's not that we don't want to take in the dogs and the cats. To be honest, for a dog, especially a dog that's been in a home for a couple of years, the shelter is really the last place that you want to wind up. You go through your sphere that you have, your family members, maybe people that you work with, maybe find somebody that is able to care for the dog, or at least make a transition for that dog for a little while. Maybe just keep it in their house until somebody's able to get their life stable or something. We've had somebody who was incarcerated, and the guy just needed to get his act together for a little while. And it just because somebody's going through personal problems doesn't make them a bad person. Once again, the no judgment zone, I mean, really, we're a land of second chances, and that really doesn't go for just the animals. Obviously, we give people the benefit of the doubt. Until you've actually seen somebody walking out of the shelter crying as they surrendered their pet, then you really can't put yourself into their mindset. And we don't try to do that. We'll just keep going back to that same thing. Our mission is to provide them the highest level of compassion and service when they get here. And that goes into action as soon as they get here. Once again, the past, it's not their fault that they're here. They didn't do anything wrong. And so, and once again, a lot of times it is. We actually had somebody who didn't feel after 2 years that they and the animal bonded together. Personally, listen, that's, I can't agree with that, but, I have to deal with the dog that's here at that point. So, and
it's not even necessarily deal with the dog that arrived here. It's helping them to find someone who wants to put in that time and effort and to give the animal the love. It wasn't the dog's fault nor the person's fault that they didn't bond the way that the person wanted to, but the dog just needs to learn how to be loved and how to love someone else.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's not always the magical Disney moment that somebody walks into the shelter and the person looks at the dog and the dog comes over. We had one dog that was 10 years old that Deanna was going to take. It broke her heart because she went through it for the first time. But it was a big dog. He was 10 years old. He's going to be a really hard dog to place. Deanna thought about taking him, but understood that at this particular time in her life and her situation, as much as she wanted him, she couldn't do it. But yet he knew that they bonded. She'd bring him into the office, and we took him to an event down at Burke Subaru in October. And there was somebody that knew he was going to be there, saw his picture. And the whole time that they were there trying to bond with the dog, he was looking over, because we were doing microchipping, to see what Deanna was the whole time. So they didn't feel like, it wasn't, once again, that Disney moment. It wasn't, oh, well, we knew from that point. But they could feel it. And what they did was they came back. And sometimes that's what it takes, just a little bit of the nurturing, letting the animal know you. And what they would do is they would come and spend a little time with the dog here at the shelter. And eventually he kind of weaned his way away from Dan and realized, wait a minute, there's somebody else here who will do the same. And like for on our end of it, because sometimes you don't know. As many dogs and cats go through here, we adopt them, and we always have this vision in our heads that they're living this lavish, wonderful life somewhere, but you don't really know that. So that's why it's cool a lot of times. Not that we're pushing into people's lives, but we were like, dude, share the pictures with us, show us, and because at Christmas time, we had a picture of him laying under the Christmas tree and things like that. So on our end of it, as much as emotionally we try not to get too deep involved in all that, it's only human nature. And sometimes, there's going to be certain dogs or cats that are going to come through here. And one of our staff, one of our volunteers who really feel that. And so to them, it's a little bit extra special. And we'd always like to take them all. We always say that. Every person that I know says, oh, if I won the lottery, I'd get a big house and I'd take all these dogs.
I'm sure.
It's not really realistic. So it's, once again, it's heartwarming to know. We did Santa Paws. We have Santa here at the back of the shelter at Christmas time. And once again, so cool just to see so many of the alum dogs come through here, and you get a chance to pet them and talk to their owners and things like that. So selfishly on our end, it's nice to see the end result and know that they're living good lives out there. I'll use George as an example too. Like, on my end of it, I do like a lot of the in memory. So if somebody passes away or there's a dog, and at Christmas time, a lot of times people will send us letters and things like that. and I could show him a picture, like somebody will say, oh, this is so-and-so, she passed away after 9 years or whatever. He's been here a lot longer than I have. So I could show him the picture of that dog, and not to get too sappy again, but I could kind of see the old crusty guy, and I see the tears kind of welling up his eyes a little bit. And to me, I think that's cool. I think it says a lot to everybody here that it still hits you like that. And then you keep doing it again, because you know what, as much as all that stuff kind of hits you emotionally, you know that that's the end result, you know, that people are taking these animals and having great lives with them.
Do you find that people that come in to the shelter that look to adopt are people that have gotten shelter dogs before?
A lot of times they have. A lot of times it's I've gotten a shelter dog. Sometimes people's hearts are in the right place, but once again, and Deanna is the person who kind of goes through all that stuff a little bit more. It's just we had Porter, who she adopted a dog, and you don't ever want to mess up the sanctity of your own home. You know, you have who you have as your dog or cat, and if you know that they don't really want anybody in the house, then maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe let them live out their lives happy, and then when the time comes, then make another decision to do that. But, you know, once again, a lot of times it's the call of, you know, you have to really see if it's the right fit for the household.
With bringing up Porter, I can tell you a little bit about his story. He was adopted. He was all the way from Arizona, somehow ended up in Pennsylvania, and then he ended up here. He was adopted by a very nice lady. There was an incident between the two dogs after a couple months of living together. And like we went over before, it was nor Porter's fault nor his owner's fault. They just didn't get along, and Porter's been here since August now of 2022. He's an amazing dog. He's about 7 to 8 years old.
Is he a boxer?
Yes.
I've seen a picture of Porter. He is adorable.
He is a love bug.
He is.
He's a very, very good boy, but we're looking for a home for him that has no other animals in it. He's good with children and everything. You know, he's got good energy, and he's a very good dog. I mean, I could talk about him all day.
Yeah, he's great. He's big.
And he looks so sweet.
He's sweet, but he's big. Once again, you know, a lot of times people are looking for that smaller dog. If the two smaller dogs are in a scuffle, a lot of people, hey, that's no big deal. But once you get a bigger dog into it, then obviously
that scares people.
Yeah, it's scary. And once again, a lot of times it's not necessarily about the dog; it's about the
people. Now, if you have a big dog and your dog's at the dog park and gets in a scuffle with another big dog, they've seen it because it happens,
right? And
if you've had a big dog for years and you've seen that, it's no big deal. You separate the dogs and you go back and you rework your dog, and you know what their limitations are.
Maybe he's not. Yeah, maybe he's not fit to go to the dog park. Maybe I have a dog that doesn't like other dogs. So, you know, that doesn't make her a bad dog. I know where to bring her. I know where not to bring her. Again, it's always about just de-escalating the situation for dogs. And she's a big dog. So, like I said, I have a big dog barking, and on the other end, I divert my attention. I know I don't go to the dog park. I don't go to Dog Beach. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times it's just being knowledgeable of what you're capable of with the dog.
So people want small dogs.
Yes, they're highly demanded right now. I've had big dogs sitting in here a lot longer than small dogs would. Even small dogs with issues. Well,
sadly, once again, it kind of goes with just the mentality of our society in general. Is a lot of times there's rules and regulations, and it's 30 dog minimum, something like that. So once again, you could have people that might be suitable and want to adopt that dog, but I'm living in an association, and the restriction is a 30-pound dog. Or sadly, some breeds. I mean, there's insurance companies that actually will base your rates on a breed of dog that you have. So, like on our end of it, those kind of things aren't helping our situation to adopt dogs and cats out.
I mean, I live in a smaller home, and I live with grandma, so I can't really have a humongous dog, even though, I mean, that Great Dane Shady would have been amazing for me, but I know my limits and I know what he needed. So I understand that a lot of people are probably going through the same thing, where they really want to help a larger dog, but they can only help a smaller one at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And then you have the rock star people that actually specifically look for a senior or special needs dog or cat. Because that stuff, I have a neighbor who that's what she does. She'll take like a dog that has like a terminal illness or something, and she'll basically be their hospice. So flipping back to what we said before, it's got to be tough to take that animal knowing that. And I think that's sometimes when you get the older dogs, that's what some of the people say. Well, I'm not ready to get this dog and then have to say goodbye to it, 3 years later.
Sure. And, a sick dog is an expensive dog.
Mm-hmm. Can be.
And it's a commitment. That's a special person that takes a dog with an ailment.
Well, that's really the big thing that people need to understand. You hit the magic word is commitment. It is a commitment. And a lot of times somebody thinks it would be fun and then, or the college that we were at, where the frat house or the sorority thought it would be fun just to adopt a dog. But then you have to think of long term. Okay, you guys are here in your apartment, and even if you can have dogs for 2 years, what's going to happen to that dog when everybody goes away? Who's going to take it? So,
and who's going to care for the dog when it's 12?
Yeah. So it's those things that you really have to think of. Once again, we don't want to be downers as far as, but we did a couple posts where we basically gave the facts. You're going to have soiled carpets. You're going to have stinky couches. You're going to have this. Are you willing to make that commitment to the dogs? We're not being pessimistic. We're being realistic with people that, listen, it's a lot, and don't do it unless you're prepared to go through for the long haul.
Sure.
It doesn't do Duke or Gunner or Porter any good to have somebody who takes him for 2 years and then 2 years later he's back in the situation that he is. That's Riley's poor problem, is that, after 2 years being in a house, it's just blowing his mind that he's sitting here in a shelter again.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as we try to do with him, it's just hard.
Now, let's go to Bud's Fund. I think this is a good time to talk about a program that was established in 2009, which offsets the cost for some special needs animals. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Dee could probably tell you about some of our special needs cats or dogs that we have that we raise money for their specific illnesses.
Right now I have Smudge. He is about 17 years old. He was found in the streets of Ocean City. He is a thyroid cat. He receives a pill every morning and a pill before we leave at night. He is a cat that is going to require a little bit more attention, sometimes more vet visits than others. Another cat that I have that has a little bit of an issue is Cream Cheese. He's only about a year old. He's a beautiful white cat.
She'll show you Cream Cheese.
Cream Cheese.
He does have a grade 1 heart murmur. So it's not bad now, but it could worsen later in his life. We have taken him to the cardiologist, and the cardiologist would like to see him again next year. Now, next year, he could say, come back in a year or come back in five years. So, Cream Cheese is an amazing cat, and I know a lot of people would be willing and more than open to take him into their home, but it's expensive. And the cardiologist can get pricey at some point. I'm trying to think of who else I have.
Even a dog like Riley. Riley has, it's just things that we do, like enrichment-wise, we get toys and things like that because we want to keep his mind kind of going the whole time. So you don't realize kind of how quickly that could be a big expense. And us, as a no-kill shelter, we're going to keep them as long as their quality of life is good. We have cats in the cat room that, we're going to keep them here as long as they're happy and they're healthy. Just because they have a certain illness or something, we go back to the human aspect of it. Is what would you do? You would get treatment for that. If it was a cat or dog that was in somebody's house, we talked about earlier, what would you do? Well, I would do whatever I can to make sure that they have the best quality of life. So, a lot of the Bud Fund goes into those special need dogs, special need cats. And
that fund helps offset some of their medical expenses?
Exactly. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as we were talking prior to the recording, I have a 7-year-old puggle who has immune-mediated hemolytic anemia, and then 3 months ago went blind with SARS. And what do?
Right.
It's a new normal. Medication is expensive, but you figure out a new routine.
It's tough. You know what? Depending on the person's situation, I mean, it really is. It's a very difficult decision sometimes. It's like a marriage. You know what? Through the good times and the bad. Right?
That's right.
Sickness and health. I could read. The whole thing. It really is. I mean, it's funny how it kind of does mirror all that. And the bond, what we talked about, is sometimes stronger than the human
100%
bond.
The trust level and the communication and the interaction that I have with her has improved tremendously.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, you're a good person for doing it too, though.
I have my moments.
Well, it is.
Although you had to make a couple changes for your dog, I mean, the dog also is going through a lot of changes too. So having that support that you're giving her is one in a million. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, it's, it was doing a little bit of research, and I got those pool noodles and nailed them around the doors so she didn't hit her head.
Oh.
And, just figuring out what was going to work and where can I walk her off the leash where she's not going to hit trees and there's not a lot of inclines or declines and kind of figuring out.
We'll have to follow you around with a camera one day and get some footage of all that.
Well, she finds the one tree and goes right for it. But, you gotta make a new normal and figure out what's going to work. And let's talk volunteers.
Okay.
You said you had 75 volunteers?
We have 75 volunteers, different capacities. Deanna is our new coordinator. And it's a lot of it's dog walking, cat socialization, our events, things like that. I think right now we do have a lot of volunteers. I mean, we're always accepting applications, but maybe might be certain times of the year, like right now it's a little bit slower. We're really not bringing a whole lot of people in. That's not that we don't want people to volunteer. It's just right now we have a pretty full group right now.
Right now, especially for dog walking, I'm filling shifts every day, which is amazing. The dogs are getting out for walks and play yard time and whatnot. Cat shift is a little bit slower. I do have a couple that are here weekly or bi-weekly. I'm always looking for cat volunteers that want to come in and give treats and pets and brushing and stuff like that. They all need a little bit more of attention.
And how can they find out about volunteering? How do you get a hold of you?
You can go right on our website, which is www.hsocnj.org, and you can fill out a volunteer form, which comes directly to our info account email.
Great. Now you have an event coming up, a couple events coming up, right?
We do. This is the time of the year that we do our Hearts and Paws, and what we do is we sell $5 Valentines. You can't see them, but I'm showing Gretchen right now.
Very nice.
And then the people, they can give them to their sweetie. They can actually have them hang at the shelter or the clinic or my office, wherever they want. We're going to be some of the businesses. Seco Subs is the Fill Your Heart. Sunny Sunoco is the Mend Your Heart. Ocean City Coffee Company is Warm Your Heart. So some of the local businesses, and if any other local businesses want to jump in, we have tons of hearts available to hang up around. They help us sell them. And it's, again, just kind of a fun fundraiser in memory of somebody. You can do it, a dog, a cat, somebody who's still around. So once again, we do that. Then for the Valentine's Day is over, then you'll be meeting Fenway soon, and Fenway will be our Shamrock seller. So then we'll go from Hearts and Paws to Shamrocks. And then throughout that, we'll be posting more events through the year. We have a skate park contest in June, and then we have our big Halloween parade in October. Anybody who's interested in our organization. We actually have Bella, who was going to be with us for the podcast today, but was a little shy. Anybody who wants, once again, to keep with the lighter side of what we do is to go on to, it's HSOCNJ, the TikTok D.
Yes, that is our TikTok page. Yeah. Sorry, we're still getting Phil a little used to this new thing.
I'm not really up on the TikTok stuff, but I could tell you this. I've watched a bunch of them, and they're really, really good. So to keep with the lighter stuff, I know we bogged everybody down with a little heavier stuff. So maybe if this afternoon, if you need some good laughs, just go on our TikTok and check some of those out. And if you like them, then just shoot a message over and let us know what you think of them. So,
Or if you have any other ideas of something else we could do for them, we're always open.
yeah, Gretchen, we'll go back with like the fundraising stuff or the volunteer stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be physically here. We have people who have done like yard sales for us. They've come up with like really creative ways on their own to help generate funds for us. Once again, our whole existence here is to find homes for homeless dogs and cats and to find ways to raise money so we can continue to do that. So anybody who has any ideas, we have estate planning, we have events. You can go online, you can make a one-time donation. You could actually set up to make a monthly donation for us as well. So, I'd say anybody who's on the fence, come here, meet some of our staff, walk through our building. And if that doesn't inspire them to not donate to us, then, I don't think anything would. So,
Deanna, what would you say to someone that is looking to get a pet and has gone to pet stores or a breeder in the past? Why come here?
I would say that if you were to come here and you told me, I'm just looking for a forever friend, I want to rescue an animal, I would say, well, how about you just come and meet them and see which one speaks to you? And if nobody speaks to you yet, then somebody will in the future. I learn the animals' temperaments and their personalities completely before sending them home because I want them to go to a home that understands exactly what they're getting. And I want everybody to get along and to have a good life together. So I take the time and the effort to get to know the animal and to see what they like and what they don't like and how they act to certain situations. So that way you understand what's going to happen throughout this time that you have them.
And if someone goes home and they have this new pet and they have a question about training or my dog's having accidents or something like that, they can get a hold of you and say, hey, I've got questions.
Yes. We give our normal work phone number. I give my personal number, and I also give some of our emails along with that. So in case you ever have any questions, even when we're closed, I'll still get back to you as quick as I possibly can.
Thank you.
Yeah, Deanna really goes the extra mile. Actually, she does like some pet sitting and things like that as well. And it's really cool because the animals that she pet sits are most of the time just our alum. So they've already gotten to know her. So it's a comfort level on a lot of levels. Like when you ask Deanna that question of that, the shelter phrase a lot of time is who rescued who. And the funny thing is it actually couldn't speak more true is like kind of what she was saying before is people think that they're doing this and I'm saving this animal's life. But a lot of times it's actually once time goes by and if they went back and look back at their life, it's amazing how much that animal actually saved them in a lot of ways. Like who hasn't had an issue struggling with something, financial issues or something, and the animal has always been there for them. So they've been there when they needed that rock in their lives. So who rescued who is kind of a funny saying because it, like I said, it really, really is a true statement.
That's true. When is your pet not there for you?
Exactly.
You're young. I'm not going to ask your age, but you are young. Why did you get into this?
I've wanted to get into this since I was a kid, and as soon as I graduated high school and I turned 18 and I was able to come work here and volunteer, whatever I was able to do, I could not wait to walk into that door. And if I could go back, I would have never changed anything. I love it here, and I'll continue to do this for as long as I can.
Well, congratulations on being the volunteer coordinator, and I'm sure you're going to bring a lot to that position.
Thank you very much.
Phil, why are you doing this?
Well, you said Deanna was young, so I'll go back. I'm assuming
Phil,
I'm old.
Phil, you're about my age.
I'll say this. I've done a lot of different jobs in my life. And it's funny as you go through life and you think of like what is really important into your life at that time and in the different stages of your life. It's funny how you think things are important. And as you realize and get older, that maybe it's not as important as you thought it was at the time. So my personal experience with it all is, as many other jobs as I've done, I've never had a job that no matter what is thrown at me through the course of the day. And once again, we never know what to expect each time we walk in the front door every day. But it's really cool to have a job that when you do go home at the end of the day, no matter when it is you actually feel like you've done something a little bit more meaningful than just made money. I go back to like the point, if ever anybody's seen the Willy Wonka, the original Willy Wonka, where Charlie wasn't going to go to the factory because Slugworth would have sold him the ticket for a lot of money. And Grandpa Joe said, go to the factory. It's just money. They make more of it each and every day. So if money's your only motivator, then maybe this wouldn't be the place for you. But like I said, as you realize what's important in your life, it kind of makes you put things in a little bit more perspective.
I love that. That's great. Well, let's wrap this up, and I can meet some dogs.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you so much for being on the Beach Bucket Podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
We'll see you on the beach.
See you on the beach.
As long as your dog's leashed, right?